Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where and when and where you're watching this show from. My name is Denise Belisle, and I'm a serenity expert and positive intelligence specialist. I'm super excited to do this show with you today. It's called It's All Good. Lucas here for a chat. And today I have an amazing guest who is, I don't want to, it's Keith McNally, and he's a doctor. So let's find out what he has to say. But before we get started, I just want to give a quick overview of what It's All Good mean. It's primarily my cup, and it says It's All Good. You might read that backward, but it's all good. And and the reason why is because I decide that I wanted to live my life right now. I can't change the past and I can't predict the future. So the only time I can be in is right now. So I stop the chatters and the little voices in my head, and I decide to live today. I would love to encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that would be right here at right there, which is at Denise Belisle. You go to youtube.com and put at Denise Belisle, and then click on subscribe and click on the little bell to follow me. And if you want to be in this show, or if after watching this episode you say, oh, I'd love to talk to Denise, well, send me, book an appointment with me, and I would love to have a chat with you. So without any further ado, let's welcome my friend, because he's on a time restriction. So I'm so excited. Keith, I'm so happy you're here. You take the time in your busy schedule to meet me here, and welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for letting me on the show. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a pleasure. And the funny thing is that Keith found me, actually, just like I said, on YouTube, and he found me and he's like, hey, who's that girl? And he also has his own show. And and then we got talking and we say, hey, why don't we swap episode? Because I love what you do, you love what I do, and we got to know one another. And I met a few people that recommended to me, and I think you'll meet her in a few weeks. I'm interviewing the girl you did a show with. Now her name escaped me. The fabulous lady that lives in New York.
Oh, Laura.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Her name escaped me for a second, but yeah, I'm meeting her in a couple of
Cool.
weeks, so she'll be on the show right after you.
Yeah, Laura Van LaRusso. She's up in Brooklyn.
Yeah. They do
Absolutely.
show
Yeah.
together, and anyway, so that we can talk about that later. So tell me about you. So why, like a doctor and a Lego fan, and like tell me who you are and what you do, so people can have an idea of who I'm talking to.
Well, I appreciate that. So yeah, it's Dr. Keith McNally, and I am not a medical doctor. I always have to get people straight because people ask,
Oh, I
medical
have a
doctor,
niche here.
what's that?
I have a niche here. Can you help me?
So it's actually a doctor of education. So I have a doctor of education in educational leadership, and
Cool.
I finished my doctoral degree back in 2010, and really have been teaching college classrooms for 15 years. So my specialty is information technology and primarily anything that has to do with Microsoft. So Microsoft apps, Azure Cloud, Cisco infrastructure, things like that. So that's really been
Okay.
my backbone for a couple of years.
Wonderful. So I can't call you if I have like a niche somewhere.
Cortisone cream I think works really good if you haven't.
Yeah, it's usually been, the thing, put a bit of cortisone cream in there. And but tell me about your own show and why you've decided to start your show.
Well, I do a show called the Question Guy Podcast, and the Question Guy Podcast was birthed from the COVID quarantine. And so
Mm,
I have a list of LinkedIn connections who were just profiles and pictures, right? And I didn't know too many people that I was literally connected to on social media. And so I decided to do what was very natural, just, knock on their virtual door and say, "Hey, do you want to have a conversation?" And because the quarantine was just that people were separated physically from other people, even going to work and all that kind of going shopping and all that was shut down, people wanted to talk. And more than that, people were making specific and intentional changes in their life. So they were either doing one thing or the other. So we were not feeling good. and we wanted to do things differently. We could take medication or other things to make ourselves feel better, or we can intentionally make changes and transform our lives. And I was connecting with the people who wanted to do the later. They
Mm.
wanted to transform their lives. You know, we were shut down. We were figuring out, oh my God, I'm working 40, 50, 60 hours. I don't want to do that anymore. I want a different life.
Yeah.
And they were purposefully making those changes. They were pivoting to have that life that they wanted. And those were the kind of conversations that I wanted to have. And so I just started having them. And so initially it was called Level Up because people were making that change. But because I'm a college professor and it's very natural for me to ask questions, it just sounded right. The Question Guy podcast was created.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's the thing, right? As a podcaster, interviewer, I mean, I love, doing what we do now, like interviewing people and asking them questions. And I know you're the same because we had a great interview when we did it. And and it's a passion of mine to get to know other people. People ask me, "Who's on your show?" I say, "People that I find interesting." Like, there's no
Okay.
niche, there's no, like area. Like now I have a professor, I had a photographer, an accountant, coaches, of course, a psychic, who knows what,
Wow.
right? And I think
Cool.
they're all people that I found extremely interesting. Some of them I don't associate with their philosophy or their way of thinking, but it doesn't mean that they're not interesting.
Mhm.
It's not because one person believe one thing and another believe another that we can't be friends and we can interact and have great conversation. As long as we all agree to disagree in peace, it's all good, right?
It's all good.
Yeah. And you also have a book. So tell me why you wrote a book and what's this book about?
So I do have it here. It's called Walking the Path, a
Yeah.
Leader's Journey. And this I want to say it was also almost birthed from the quarantine, but it was really birthed from a conversation. So as the time of this podcast 2 years ago, so we were, I'm 54, or going to be 54. And, when I was 52, I was having a conversation with a colleague of mine out in California. And we were kind of just, and chatting away, and we were kind of going over all the stuff that I've done, becoming a doctor and all this kind of cool
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And then he said, "Well, where's your book?" "Well, my
How did
book.
you
I don't
become a
have a
doctor
book."
without having a
So
book?
yeah, I don't have a book. I didn't have a book at that day. And so I went back to my mentor and I said, "I need a book." Well, I said, "Okay. Well, what do you need a book on?" "Well, I don't know, to be quite
I
honest." And
was told
so
I'm a doctor. I should have a book,
I don't
especially a
have a
doctor.
book.
Yeah.
So we kind of passed around some ideas, and he said, "Well, you like to tell stories, and you earlier you said, I've got Legos behind my do. I've got Lego sets behind me, and what I used to
I'll put you
do."
big so people can see it. Hold on. Here we go.
Go ahead.
Keep going.
So what I used to do is I used to build these giant wood boxes and play sets basically, but they actually were telling the story of the Lego set. And I like the Lego dragons because I
Hmm.
like to collect dragons. I've got some dragons over here which are not Lego, but all good. And I would tell the story of what I was seeing in in a video format. So if you look deep into my YouTube channel, way back when I was telling stories with stop motion and other kind of things, lots of IT, lots of technology incorporated in telling a story. And he said, "Well, tell a story." And so I did. And so
Mm.
from my subconscious, I believe, I was telling the story of personal transformation. And so the book is about a young man named John. He's 17 and he'll be 18 in about a month. And he lives in a village that has been the same for centuries, for generations. Nobody even remembers when they settled, and the village is in a valley surrounded by mountains. And nobody ever talks about leaving, and nobody ever talks about bringing somebody in, because everybody is now very safe, very settled, very everything's commonplace. So it's craftsmen and farmers, and people hunt and fish, and things are good, and people want things to be good just
Yeah,
as they
yeah,
are.
yeah. No
No
drama. Everybody
disruption.
does what they're supposed to be.
Yeah. And that's how communities are, and that's how they should be. They want to feel safe, and they want to know that people have got your back, right? But John has this seed inside of him that's just bursting to figure out who he really is. And a month before his 18th birthday, he just said, I got to climb the mountain. I got to find out what life is like on the other side of the mountain. So he tells his mentor, and his mentor says, okay, let's do it. But you need three things. And so he tells him you need three things. And so you need to know your why. You need to know your genesis, basically, because when you start crossing up the mountain and you want to cross over it, things are going to get tough. Things are going to get really crappy. And at any point in time, you're going to want to give up. You need to know your why. You need to know why you're doing this to begin with, so that when things get tough, you're going to go back to that and say,
You
this
can
is
hang
why I'm
out to something. Yeah.
doing it. Yeah. Then you need people. You need a team. You need your friends, people that will cheer you on, encourage you, motivate you, and you them, because you can't do this alone. It's too dangerous. Fundamentally, crossing over a mountain is going to be too dangerous. So you need a group of people with you who you will support and lead, and they will help you through your journey. And then finally, you need a plan. You need at least a starting point and a plan. Even if you don't know the destination because you don't know what's on the other side, you at least need a plan to get there. And it's not about reaching the destination, it's about the journey. The journey is what's going to transform John and his friends as they take on this mission, this vision of finding out what's on the other side of the mountain.
Hmm.
Now, I use John as a, very vanilla, very plain character, and his supporting cast of Liz and Penny and Julie and Jose, they're all kind of pieces of me. So they all play a little piece. Like one's the mentor, one is the cheerleader, one's the misfit, one's the wannabe. And so there's all kind of characterizations that really come together in order to achieve crossing over the mountain. But they never they reach a part of the mountain and then catastrophe happens.
Of
So
course, shit happens, right?
it does happen, but I leave it there. So I leave it there for two possible reasons. I want the reader to determine what happens next. Do they eventually cross over? Let that be the continuation of your story. Or what I really want to do is, create the next step, the next stage of their journey.
Hmm.
And so if I can get enough sales with this, enough support, I'm going to already write the next chapter, basically.
That's
So it's
pretty
a
amazing. I think that it's like coming up with this metaphor, right? Having this one guy, John, which is the main character, but then the way you explain it, having all these friends around him, but these friends are actually part of you,
yeah,
right? They could be one of their friend. I don't know. I haven't read the book, um, but one of their friend I imagine could be someone that's really scared, right? So that so
yeah,
that could be someone that sometimes are really afraid to move forward, right? Like I
yeah,
can imagine different character which are different personality trait of a person, and we all have those. And in positive intelligence, we call them the saboteurs, right? Which are these are all characters that we have in our brain, and some are more prominent than others. And yeah, wow, that's really amazing. So I need a copy of your book.
what I need to send it to you. And
that'll
that's
be
we could perfectly do that.
that'll be awesome. That sounds like a really cool story, and I can't wait already to read the second book. And so through your life experience, because I imagine that's what the book's about. It's kind of walking people through the things you've learned, the growth that you have experienced, and the hardship also of leaving that comfortable bubble
Mhm.
of village that everybody's happy, and why the hell would you like to leave, right? And working into bringing that gang of friends with you that will support you, but also why would they want to leave? Like I have a bunch of curiosity in my mind in regard to all of that, right?
Well, for the character's sake, so Liz is John's cheerleader, and so she's always been his best friend. But her motivation is that her parents are dead, and so she's been orphaned, and she lives with her cousin and her cousin's mother. Her cousin's name is Penny, and Penny has a deformity in her left hand. It's been fused together, and so I purposefully did that as part of her character trait. But because of that, she's different from everybody else in the village. She's been so different, it's not even pleasant to look at, that she's been ostracized and isolated. She can't, now that
Mm.
she's 18, she can't even get a job, and getting a job is expected.
So it's not
At,
the best life for
it's
everyone
not the best life
in
for her.
that perfect village.
And Julie, the other lady, the other 18-year-old, is the wannabe. She wants to be like Liz because Liz is like this fantastic person that you just want to be around or be like, and so, but she has some intuition about that catastrophic event that occurs at the end, and like in a dream, and because they're her friends, she goes to Jose, who's the mentor, and she's saying, "I know that you know where our friends are at," and so I have to leave it.
Oh,
I have to leave it at that because
oh my
otherwise,
God, you guys, you want to have that book. And how has written that book changed your life?
I, I I'm attached to it, and so for the first 2 weeks that I got my own copy, I slept with it for 2 weeks. But it's really an extension of who I am, and so when I have these kind of conversations, um, those who are creative and by nature, this then becomes an extension of who I am, and so I use this as part of my business because I do want to get on stage, and
Yeah,
so I do talk about the
that was
book.
my next question.
I talk about personal development, personal transformation. And the big thing about that is taking risk. Many of us don't like change. We don't like change. Things are good
Hmm,
when
hmm.
things are
Yeah,
status
no, when you
quo.
got like
Yeah.
status quo, it's like, hey, I don't want to get into trouble. I don't want to risk anything.
But in order for that seed to grow, in order for you to become truly who you need to be, want to be, should be, authentically you got to risk change. You got to risk
Mm.
it. And so that's essentially what I'm going through right now in my life. And like I said, I'm older in years, but there's lots of change, lots of good things going on, and so I'm looking forward to really, I want to say, the last stage of my career, um, and it's exciting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask also. Can you foresee a change in the future? Like, because right now you're teaching. Is that
I,
your
I, I
your
still
day
teach,
job?
so I don't teach in the classroom anymore. I do still teach technical instruction, but for a business corporation. And so I teach robotic software automation.
Okay, okay.
But I
And
don't want to do that forever. I want to inspire, encourage,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. But that's what I say. I
yeah,
can see that by the fact that you wrote your book, it kind of opened up some doors in your mind that were shut before, probably, that says you can be more than what you are now. You
yeah.
can help more than you're helping now. You can, and all that through COVID, opening up yourself to those podcasts and inviting people. I can see it's sort of a path, right, that you're walking through right now that allows you to be able to discover the new you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and it's
The one
exciting.
that is inside of you, but it's like a layers of onion you're unpeeling, right? It's
Yeah,
like, oh, look at this gem, or the pearl inside the shell, or
yeah,
however you want metamorphoric idea you want to put in there. But
yeah.
I can see that, and I think that's awesome. I think it's very beautiful because I feel in you, and I declare that publicly. I feel that from the moment I met you, that you're more than what you are, right? Like I can feel bubbling inside potential of being able to support so many people more than mechanic, robotic mechanic people, like that's cool. That's nice. It's technical and people are appreciating you. But on the other side of that, on the mental enhancement and opening up, I think you can definitely help a whole bunch of people and support them. So I'm really happy that I get to know you and that I met you, and thank you
Well,
for reaching out.
I appreciate that, and like, yeah, that sounds amazing. I would love to reach. If I could get to 1 million people and inspire them to make change, I think that
Yeah,
would be awesome.
yeah. Well, it starts with me, so thank you. You have inspired me.
Good.
And I'm sure the people that are on your shows and the people that are listening to your shows are also being influenced. So it slowly start, and eventually it's just like the when you start to push something down the hill, and eventually the snowball becomes so big that nothing can stop it, right?
I hope so.
So
I do hope so.
yeah, that would be awesome. So do you have any last tip? I know you have to leave early. I'm sad because we could have talked forever. But do you have any last tip to give people in regard to their life or
What I say is, well, there's really two things that I've learned in the past, immediate years that are so vital. The first thing is giving yourself permission, and so that's actually a talk I'm going to give quite soon up in New York, because when we hit obstacles in our lives, when we hit challenges, we don't know how to cross over that obstacle, cross over that barrier. And sometimes we don't. It's so challenging that we stop and go the other way. We don't give ourselves permission to take that
Mhm.
risk. And then the second thing is, of course, is once you've decided that I give myself permission, I'm going to make the change, is go ahead and put those three things that I talked about
Yeah,
earlier. Know
yeah,
your why, have yourself a team, and make a plan. And once you get those things in order, you could really accomplish anything you want to.
okay. Awesome. I love that. I love that a lot. So I have here a way that you told me that how people can reach you. So let me show that how to reach Keith. Da, da, da. You can
Well,
go on LinkedIn, right?
yes,
So search him, Dr. Keith McNally on LinkedIn. You'll find him. He looks very much like himself.
I do.
And
Bald head and everything.
yeah, and the toy behind you. So that's him. And you also have a gift, I believe, which is now that you planted a seed on people, you offer them
A
chapter
free
one.
free loan, yeah. Download chapter one. Do you have that, or do I need to give it? So how
You
does
need to
that
give
work?
me the link for chapter one, but I'll put that in the show notes.
Okay,
So just send it to me today when you have a chance. So when I put the show notes on, then I can add it on,
cool.
and that'll be
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. Yeah, I want to. Everybody who's watching, I encourage you. If the story sounds great, and it is,
Well, it's such a
download.
great teaser that you gave us. I mean, I just wanted to, wow, what's going to happen? So that's fabulous. So just stay there for a second. I'll be right back with you. Unfortunately, we have to close early. So stay there. Don't go. So wow, I hope you're excited and you want to read at least that first chapter and maybe more. Ask and go buy that book, how you can buy it. And I'm sure probably on LinkedIn you can contact him and say that. So I'm super excited to have done this show. As I said, I started to discover Keith a lot more, and we're going to stay friends forever. Again, if you want to follow more of these amazing interviews, go to YouTube at denisebelil.com and at denisebelil, not .com, at Denise Belisle, and then subscribe to my show. And you can also book a call with me at tiny.cc/talk with Denise. And I would love to have a conversation with you. So until next time, be kind to one another, and I will see you next time. Until then, have fun.